Relax your stomach to the best of your ability. Keep your trunk upright. This helps for the natural flow and ease of breath through the central channel, as if there's an invisible string pulling all the way through the crown of your head, gently upward. Traditionally, in Buddhist meditation, we keep our eyes open, not closed, but they are still resting with your gaze slightly downward. This is symbolic of the journey of trying to become more present and awake to what's happening. By keeping our eyes open, we're committed to staying wakeful in any given situation. So we'll begin with a somatic grounding body scanning meditation. Starting with your feet, gently becoming aware of the sensations in your feet, from the tops of your feet, through the bottoms of your feet, through your toes and in between them. Envision that your feet are filling with breath as if you are able to breathe in and out through the entirety of your feet. Noticing any sensations that arise in your feet. Simply noticing them and letting that awareness pass through gently with the breath. Breathing in and out through the sensations and awareness of your feet. Slowly move your attention, breath, and awareness up through your ankles and calves. Envisioning that you're able to breathe in and out through the entirety of your feet, ankles, and calves. Noticing any sensations that arise or lack of sensation. Simply noticing and letting the awareness pass out through the breath. allowing your attention, breath, and awareness to anchor your energy and focus through the calves and ankles, breathing in and out through them. Slowly move your attention, breath, and awareness up through the knees and upper legs and thighs. Envisioning that you are breathing in and out through the entirety of your legs. Noticing any tension or sensation or lack thereof. Simply noticing and releasing through the out breath. Slowly move your attention, breath, and awareness from your upper legs to your stomach and back. Envisioning that you are breathing in and out through the entirety of your trunk. Becoming aware of the gentle rise and fall as you inhale and exhale the breath. Noticing any sensations or lack thereof. And releasing that awareness with the out breath. Sometimes it can be helpful to place your hand on top of your stomach as an additional point of focus as you breathe in and out through the sensations in your stomach. Slowly move your attention, breath, and awareness from the trunk of your body through to your hands, wrists, and arms. Imagining that you are able to breathe in and out through the entirety of your hands and arms. Allowing the attention, breath, and awareness to relax your shoulders, noticing anything that arises and breathing through that awareness. Allowing yourself to breathe in and out through the entirety of the arms, the forearms, the forearm, the elbows, the wrists, the hands. Slowly move your attention, breath, and awareness from the arms and shoulders through to the chest and upper back. This heart area carries a lot of sensation and emotional gravity, energetic force. Allowing yourself to release any sensations through the out breath, breathing in and out through the chest and upper back. Slowly moving your attention, breath, and awareness from the chest and upper back to the neck and back of neck. Imagining that you are able to breathe in and out through the neck. Noticing any sensations or lack of sensations you experience. Simply noticing them and letting that awareness ride the breath. Slowly moving your attention, breath, and awareness from your neck up to your face and head, so that all of your breath is coming in and out through your face and head, top of head, back of head, ears, eyes, nose, mouth. Noticing any sensation that arises, releasing tension. Releasing through the exhale. Breathing in and out through the entirety of your face and head. Slowly allow your attention, breath, and awareness to pervade the entirety of the body, from the crown of the head all the way down through to the toes. Working through all the parts as this collective whole. Breathing in and out through the entirety of the body. As if your pores were able to inhale and exhale. Now slowly invite yourself back to the present moment in this shared Zoom space together. As we slowly come out of this body scan and reintegrate in the space together. Okay, and as you come out of it, take a moment to stretch, have a drink of water or whatever your beverage of choice is. And we're going to do a bit of tapping, slapping, which helps sort of move around not only the lymph in your body, the blood, but also helps with the winds. So when we're working with meditation and bringing focus and attention and awareness together with uniting it with the breath, that unity sort of moves the breath around. And so this is sort of a way to help us disperse the movement, any cleared, stale energy that we have. You can sort of wakes you up, tapping your legs, anywhere that you can reach easily. Okay. So, before we get into our next meditation, I wanted to sort of talk about and invite you to share, when you think of meditation, this is not a trick question. This is a genuine, open question that is, I think, an important thing to discuss as meditators, as Sangha members, as people, embarking on any path. What is it like when you think of meditation? What do you think of meditation? What do you think meditation is? Like if I have 3 children, a 2, 4, and 6-year-old, and I often have to answer these questions. So, if my 4-year-old daughter asked you, "What do you think meditation is?" It's not a trick question. It's me trying to break apart our notions of what meditation is so we can work on expounding upon them. So feel free to raise a hand. And if no one feels comfortable answering this early in the teaching, I completely understand and I'll just keep going. Let's see. Do I see any hands? No hands?
My hand is up, but probably can't see it.
Okay, great. Okay, yes, I see lots of
So,
hands. So
and
exciting.
then, yes,
Okay.
yeah. Um, so I think about it as it's an encounter with the mind.
Mm.
It's my way of being a warrior, but not in that way that we normally like a Western definition, but like the um, bringing the balance and
Mm.
thinking about what can I do that is right for me, but also causes not as much harm or friction in the outer world.
Mm. Thank you for sharing that. I
Sure.
really love that.
Thank you. Yeah.
I love that. Thank
Yeah.
you. Okay. Oh, and am I allowed to read this aloud, Rachel? Is that okay? Can you write that in the chat? Okay. Rachel wrote, becoming present in the moment through the slowing down of the mind to meet with the physical body. Mm. Oh, I really love that. I'm going to read that again. Becoming present in the moment through the slowing down of the mind to meet with the physical body. I really, really, really love that. I love all of these. This is so helpful. See, this is really nice. Okay. So I'm going to go this way to that way. Barbara.
Which Barbara?
Oh, my goodness. And now you're right next to each other.
Oh,
Well, okay, Barbara, you're already unmuted. You go first.
okay. So, for years, I think my meditation was about finding my way to my essential nature, although I didn't have those words for that. And then I discovered NDF, and in the 9 months that I've been participating here, I've begun to engage with training. And my sense of what's happening with my meditation is that I'm finding the path, the control, the focus to bring what I connect with within me into the world around me.
Mm,
Thank
yes. Thank you so much for sharing. I really love that. I love that sort of bringing with what connecting to your essential nature and then bringing that to connect in the world around you outside of your meditation. That's really important. Thank you so much. Okay, Barbara. Oh, you can't unmute? Aparna, can you help? No? Okay. Do you want to type it out?
Yeah,
Oh,
I've asked her to unmute, but it's not,
it's not
it
working.
can't on your side there.
Do you want to type something out, Barbara? Okay. All right. Um, that's really strange. Okay, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Okay. Jade?
Hi. Can you hear me all? Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Um, I spent many years because I have trauma in my body. I spent many years. Now I understand meditating, but trying to not feel the body because it's so difficult to feel. And I do, so I do feel I spent many years trying to, okay, I'm listening to the sound and seeing and which can be helpful, but I had this notion of, oh, I have to get rid of the
Mm,
yucky feeling.
yeah, yes.
Um, and now over the years and also, on this somatic path and finding this community, I know the ultimate way to get out of suffering or through is to cultivate this presence, this capacity to be with the yucky feeling. And it can be listening, but hearing, but that also is this capacity, a way to support feeling whatever is in this nervous
Mm,
system and
yeah,
not a way to reject what's here.
yes. Yes, absolutely. As someone, survivor and lots of trauma myself, I know that the body can be a really hard thing to tap into. And yet, the somatic listening process that is offered to us in meditation in an integrated path is really the key to healing of
Yeah.
like integrating your experience and allowing yourself to be gently present, unbiasedly, unjudgmentally present with any sensations that arise in the body, and the mind and the body are, integrally connected. Thank you so much for sharing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Very important. Okay, so hold on. I see some things in the chat. Brett. Brett?
I wrote I couldn't I feel like this is my first day. I couldn't find how to raise my hand, which like after
Don't even worry. This computer stuff is beyond me.
after like the all the Zoom I've done in the last 3 years, I don't know. I should be but this is like in a text like the when I started off in a more insight tradition, but when I started going to Tibetan spaces, I learned the word like to familiarize, or is it gom? And I think
Yeah.
that's true. Like just like sitting here getting to really know what's going on below, like our habits, the sort of pre-conscious-y kind of stuff that's lingering. So,
Yes.
just learning as a way to, yeah, familiarize so we're not so caught off guard. I think that holds true.
Yes, I completely agree with that. As someone who was going to use that today, you stole the words right from my mouth. That's excellent. Yeah. So gom, which is the Tibetan word for meditation, means to familiarize. And, similarly to like how um, we're literally through the process of meditation working on familiarizing ourselves with just like what's there. And even the process of familiarizing is a process. So everything about meditation is process oriented, which is something that we'll continue to talk about, that I really want to uh, what makes meditation so healing is that it is antithetical to the way that we operate in most forms of our world, which is that we're very process oriented, which is we're always separating things, good, bad, past, present, future. We're chopping things down so that we can digest them into this sort of binary system. But meditation is deeply, deeply process oriented. Okay. Um, Justine wrote, "This line from the poet Antonio Machado also speaks to me of what meditation is. Last night as I was sleeping, I dreamt, marvelous error, that I had a beehive inside my heart. and the golden bees were making white combs and sweet honey from my old failures. That's really beautiful. Wow. Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that, Justine. And thank you, Brett, for sharing about familiarization, such an important part of this process. Margaret.
Hi.
Hi.
Hi, everyone. Meditation for me is an opportunity to come in touch with, come and touch my real self, my inner self. And the result of that always is to relieve suffering. So it's a very healthy place for me to be. I recently, partly with you and partly with Joel Levy, learned about Tonglen, and now I feel like I'm 78 years old, and I had a very active life and a very productive career, and I've been sort of at a loss now, like what do I do with myself? And I really think Tonglen is going to be the answer for me. It brings me such peace, and I feel like it really helps the world. So I'm very happy to be involved with these practices and the Natural Dharma Foundation, and I'm glad you're here now.
Oh, wow. Oh, Margaret, thank you so much. And Tonglen is, for me, I think maybe the most, similarly, for me, it feels like the most important practice. I relate to it so deeply. So Tonglen is the practice of taking and sending. And we might have some time to do that today, because I agree the world could definitely use some extra Tonglen. And there's no shame in doing extra Tonglen ever. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.
This was so, you all, okay, thank you. All right, no more hands, no more. So I feel really terribly though about Barbara. You're good, Barbara? Did you figure it out? Yeah, there
Yeah,
you go.
I don't know if it was me or if there was a setting, because I'm usually pretty good with tech, and it just, no matter what I touched, when I touched it, it just didn't. Anyway,
Okay.
and I didn't have anything profound to say, so I lowered my hand. I was just, to me, meditation currently now
Yeah.
is deep relaxation, to be aware, inner and outer world, without judgment, just like almost non-meditation. That's kind of a phrase that gets thrown around in Dzogchen, but
Yeah.
really just deep letting go, relaxing with what inner and outer, whatever pops up, without judgment. And that's the hard part.
Yeah. I thought you had nothing profound to say, Barbara, and there you go. Thank you so much for sharing. And yes, I'm really glad that you got to share. And I'm sorry for the
Okay.
snafu with the computer.
I'm on an iPad, so sometimes things are weird. And anyway, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yes, that's such an important part of meditation. I just want to say thank you so much. I know that it sounds probably like dorky or something. I feel like I'm in high school, like going around the classroom, what do you think this means? But I actually think that when it comes to meditation, I don't ever want people to take for granted, like as someone who's like trying to earnestly teach meditation in today's world, I think one of the most important things I can offer is to say you should never take for granted what you think meditation is, that it isn't that it isn't sort of you learn these principles and they're very important, and every single one of you that shared with me today shared that you know what meditation is, right? I would have been worried if one of you had maybe said, not judging, but worry, like when people say like, well, I try to sit still and I just try to tune out tune out the world, like that's a dangerous. I always try and correct students when they use that notion because it is dangerous, right? Meditation shouldn't be used as a device to sort of turn off anything. There should be nothing turned off. And all of you reflected that in your responses, that that's not what anyone here is doing. But I think it's really important to constantly have sort of this wakeful attention to what you think meditation is, and to sort of be aware of how, I mean, meditation is the most alive thing. It's sort of like to describe being in a sense, but you're basically like, you know you're being in the present moment as it is. And ideally you're working on not, where you're working on tapping into non-judgmental awareness. But like all of these practices, meditation is, you're only able to meditate, just like the only reason that there is such a thing as this, that we can conceive of the Buddha or Buddha nature is because we have Buddha nature, right? The only reason that we can meditate and tap into non-judgmental spacious awareness is because that is the nature of our awareness. That is the basis of our reality. And that is why. So Dharma literally means phenomena. So the Buddha Dharma is essentially like the Buddha's study of the nature of phenomena, but Dharma itself is like phenomena. So when we're working with meditation, and that, the highest phase, as Barbara mentioned, the Dzogchen term, the highest phase of meditation is non-meditation. And so what that means is over time, we continuously develop this familiarization, this technique of sort of allowing ourselves to learn how to turn our usually external facing gaze. We have a very, dualistic perception, right? Where there's me and you, there's inside and there's outside. And so everything is divided in this way. And then from there, we have millions and billions and trillions of subdivisions that take place all the time to sort of, which is also, as we learn through the process of meditation and familiarization, there's nothing wrong with that either. That process is part of the natural flow of our energy, that within that sort of spaciousness is also this clarity, and that clarity is creative, innately creative and playful. It is the source of imagination. And so that there's always going to be things bubbling up, and that those impulses, instead of, the reason why we talk about cultivating non-judgment through the process of familiarization is because judgment is basically like the crystallization of you trying to freeze that impulse of imagination, that living impulse that is creatively bubbling up. We in that sort of process of our normal like dualistic gaze, we sort of freeze that, and then we make something of it, something that seems solid, something that we can define and refer to. But there's this constant flow of forms arising, and that's just part of the natural state of mind, innately creative, clear, moving. And when you get into this notion of like different things that you discover in meditation, they have the different kayas they talk about, like, the nirmanakaya, the dharmakaya, the sambhogakaya, swabhavaka kaya, which is like all of them sort of together. These are all ways, again, of sort of like creating categories, again, for you to define these different aspects of mind. But they aren't, again, they're never things apart from you, things that you're adopting, things that you're like donning like a coat or a new thing. There's nothing there's nothing to adopt or reject in meditation. We're simply familiarizing ourselves with what's there and learning through that process of familiarization what's happening. I think the hardest thing to realize, and why it's so amazing to me that the highest level of meditation is referred to as non-meditation, is, for all of us now, when we sit down, there is such a sense of, you can't help it, but like, artifice, right? There's a bit of artifice, you pick out your favorite cushion, you select a time of day that you can make the time to meditate. You tell everybody you're going to meditate. You tell yourself you're going to meditate. You get yourself your tea or your drink. And there's a lot of artifice there, which is totally fine. You've got to make it happen. How else in this busy world with all this stuff going on can you learn to familiarize yourself and go forward in this process without making time for it? And it is sort of like making time for exercise, right? With functional strength training, you have to make time to actually lift weights. But in the end, while for some the goal might be to have muscles, sure, that's great, like tone, meaning like on the outside. Also, the goal is functionality, right? So that you're able to then be stronger and healthier as you lift things up, lift up children, grandchildren, friends, heavy buckets. And so similarly with meditation, in the beginning, there's a lot of artifice and sort of contrivance just naturally in the process of facilitating your introspection, sort of. But then as time goes on, I mean, you learn to integrate that experience. You learn to tap in more naturally. It's sort of like learning how to for example, one teacher said it's like learning how to breathe. We're all lucky. That's an autonomic process. We don't have to learn how to breathe, right? Most of us don't. Uh, but meditation eventually, like it's this process of learning how to breathe because it's something that you're always able to do. Like you can always connect with what's already there. Meditation is the process of connecting with what's already there, recognizing, learning to recognize what's always already present. But there is this sense of learning how to do it, but it's kind of funny because you're learning how to recognize something that's always already there. And so you have to, over time, diminish this sense of contrivance and duality in that through simply repeating and repeating and repeating and familiarizing and familiarizing and familiarizing. And at the end, you come to this point where, you don't actually need to sit and you don't actually need to, get into the points of Varochana in your body or, think about it as meditation. You can simply be. And that is the path essentially. And I always like to bring that back when I talk about Buddhism at all, and bring it, that's why meditation is the path. There is no path apart from what we learn in meditation. In the Vajrayana, there's many systems, elaborate systems, again, tools, really excellent tools to help us through expedited means to recognize some of these things, whether it's through doing it, yoga or breathing exercises or deity visualization. These are all techniques to get you to recognize what meditation is, what we're finding as we familiarize ourselves in the process of meditation. And I always find it really important, especially in communities that are Vajrayana leaning, all communities, but especially in Vajrayana communities, because sometimes we can get really caught up in some of the Vajrayana systems, and they're very colorful and they're also exciting, and they're creative and they fulfill a lot of other parts of our being. But at the end of the day, meditation is the this journey and process of learning meditation is the goal. Learning how to breathe, learning how to connect with your nature through the process of meditation, that is the path. And so I wrote in the description of the teaching that there is no path apart from our footsteps, no path apart from our heartbeat and our natural breath, because that is true, right? Like we take refuge in other sources as a source of like inspiration and connectivity, and aspiration is a sort of process by which we, again, sort of muster or like blow on the glass of our awareness, where we're sort of saying like, you're like, like Carl Jung's psychoanalysis, right? You sort of project onto your analyst, like they know everything. They know about me. They know this. They can see me, they can support me, and then over time a good analyst is supposed to wean you off of that into the discovery of recognizing that all those tools and those qualities that you projected onto your, analyst, those are innately yours. And so all of these tools within, any other type outside of meditation, they're all tools. And even meditation is essentially like a tool, but it's one of those things that eventually sort of dissolves itself through its own discovery. Meditation becomes non-meditation the more you meditate, which is really interesting. So I want to take another moment to meditate together. So find a comfortable seat, whether that's seated on the ground, on a chair, laying down, whatever is best for your body, whatever you need to do to take care of yourself. To the best of your ability, keeping your spine upright. This helps with a natural flow of breath. Envisioning that there's a string going out through your crown of your head. Lowering your gaze slightly, relaxing your shoulders and your stomach. And even though we're here in this position, cultivating a sense or experiencing a sense of anticipation, I want to invite you to just be, to allow your awareness to be riding the breath, allowing each sense gate to be open. Non-judgmentally welcoming anything you see, smell, hear, feel. Being aware of what is. And letting that awareness ride out the breath. There is nowhere else to go. Just be right here. If your mind wanders, Bring it back through the breath. Not too loose, not too tight. Anchoring your awareness in the present moment through the breath. Welcome back. Hello. Welcome back. Good to see everyone. I hope it was a good, brief break. I'm literally in my new house. We're not moved in. So, but this will be our room. And we're in Lincoln, Vermont. And we moved to Lincoln. Barbara, do you live in Lincoln? Oh, okay. Close. Yeah. Well, I'm really excited. We moved from Los Angeles, so it was a very big move. 3 kids and 2 dogs in 1 car across country. It was quite a journey. Anyhow, so welcome back. So Margaret mentioned, for example, there are many, many different types of meditation that can be done, and all of them are different sort of access points to familiarizing ourselves with our minds, with what's happening. And sometimes we use something like Shine, or shamatha, which is calm abiding meditation. And that's sort of where you're basically learning the points of the points of Varachana, which is, the posture, like good posture that helps facilitate meditation, sort of how to, anchor your eyes, 4 to 6 inches in front of you and slightly downward, and things like that, like different ways, points of posture to place the body and breath, essentially, so that you can more easily access the process of familiarizing yourself with your experience. And then we get into more sort of elaborate practices. And I say elaborate just in terms of like visualization, like actual, more ornate style. And those can be, through Yidam practices, which are deity practices, where you might visualize a deity like Chenrezi, which is the deity of compassion. And for example, Yidam literally means, so Yi is mind, Dam is bind. So literally means to bind your mind. So you're basically using the yidam, or the image of visualization of this deity external to you, and also a self visualization where you envision that your body is the form and body of the deity. You use those visualizations and that technique as a way to sort of bind your mind. And that's very similar to how in shamatha or Shine meditation, you're using the breath essentially to bind your mind. You're following the breath. You are labeling thoughts as thinking and then letting them pass through. You're learning that skill. So a Yidam meditation serves sort of multiple purposes. The first purpose being to bind your mind and sort of become a focal point and an anchor for your awareness, a way for you to sort of pay attention instead of like following thoughts as they're passing and elaborating on them, which takes you out of sort of the present moment of awareness. And secondly, a Yidam has this other beneficial quality, which is that the Yidam is also your own essence, reflective of your own essence. So, for example, Chenrezi might be the embodiment of compassion, and it seems like this external image and external being, but it's actually a being that is a reflection and embodiment of your own innate wisdom and compassion. So you are in also Yidam, in binding your mind, it's recognizing that you're inextricably linked, that you are Chenrezi, that your true nature is that of Chenrezi's nature. And so by recalling this connection, you are embodying and becoming, and you're living that experience. So you're sort of like puffing on the glass of compassion and, saying like, I aspire to be this compassionate. And in that aspiration and wakeful aspiration, you slowly familiarize and recognize that that is your nature always and already innately. And then they have these different types, different flavors of deities, so you have like peaceful deities like Chenrezi, and then you might have wrathful deities like Mahakala that embody, Mahakala's said to sound like the footsteps of Mahakala sounds like the drum. It's like a very earthy sort of like cutting through attachment and clinging, protecting us from things that are harmful. There's these, but they're all essentially tools that are based on our own inherent qualities. So again, similar to how I said, the biggest warning sign when people are meditating in the beginning is to sort of conceive of meditation as being either something that you're putting on to change who you are, right? Like, I put on this active meditation, and in so far as I will now not think my thoughts and silence them, that is a dangerous look. And similarly with Yidam or deity meditation, this idea that the deity is a truly existent being apart from you, like a real godlike figure. It is Buddhism is a non-theistic religion, so that's very important. So it's like, oh, we have these deities, and yet they aren't like a pantheon of gods or truly existent beings that we're to revere outside of ourselves, like as if there's a beyondness that we're ascribing to or hoping to something to attain outside ourselves. So every system and every practice within Buddhism is meant to point back to our true nature, which is always already, like we already are possessed of this nature. So there is no path, there is no practice that is taking us away from that place, but only bringing us back to that realization. So, for example, a practice like Tonglen, this taking and sending, which is an integral path on the integral part of the bodhicitta path, this path of awakened heart, which so in the three turnings of the wheel of Dharma, you have the Hinayana path, and in the Hinayana path, we're sort of dealing with this idea of emptiness of self, which basically means that there is no truly existent self. And what does that mean? Does it mean that this is all a lie? No, 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 that you don't really exist and you're like a hologram? No, 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 not really. It means that we're made of a multitude of things coming together. So it reflects the non-existence of self as a reflection of interdependence. Of, when you study like the Nidanas or the Skandhas, you begin to see like, oh, if I were to say, who is Zoe? Like, or what makes Zoe Zoe? Oh my gosh, it's so hard to, I have hazel eyes and a nose, but then if I didn't have hazel eyes and this nose, would I not be Zoe? Well, we know that's not true. People get plastic surgery. They can change their eye color. They can change their nose. But so it's just showing this lack of truly existent self refers to the interdependence of phenomena. So that when we think of a self, the self is actually a collection of many different things. Skandhas refer to different heaps or aggregates. So there's different parts of even our perception process. So even if you were to say, myself is my process by which I perceive things, even that process is made up of different parts. So that refers to that interdependent cycle of phenomena. So the second turning of the wheel of Dharma is the Mahayana path, which gets into the emptiness of not only self, but of phenomena or other. So then it's saying the same thing is true about me, about how you can't say there's one thing that makes me Zoe, but in fact, I'm made of a myriad causes and conditions coming together. The same can be said for the external phenomena like earth elements that we witness, or, furniture or things like that, as well as the other people that we are in relation with, which I think makes sense, right? Like if that's my experience, why wouldn't that be another human's experience, that they're made of different causes and conditions? But it also means that the way, if we get into karma, the way and reason for why we're in relationship with certain people and not other people also depends on these ever-changing multitude of causes and conditions, right? So and in the magical part, I feel, of the Mahayana path is this idea of sort of altruism or bodhicitta, which is that purports that, so not only is there emptiness of self and other, but that also means that there's interdependence of self and other, so that our actions impact others, which we can see, right? Like if I throw a rock at a person and it hits them, like they're going to get hurt. Or if I say a nasty word to someone I love, they're going to get hurt. So, that's a very gross or, macro version of that interdependence, but then there's more micro versions of that. So we are linked together in that way, and not sort of in, an important distinction to make is it's not similar to Hinduism. In Hinduism, there's an idea of sort of a collective. Buddhism is not talking about like a collective mind. There is no like one universal mind, but rather that our minds, bodies, we are interconnected through various causes and conditions through this chain of interdependent, this emptiness connects us. But this also means, our true nature, not only is it open and spacious, but it also means that our actions impact others, which we can see, right? Like if I throw a rock at a person and it hits them, like they're going to get hurt. Or if I say a nasty word to someone I love, they're going to get hurt. So, that's a very gross or, macro version of that interdependence, but then there's more micro versions of that. So we are linked together in that way, and not sort of in, but our nature is also innately compassionate. That is part of our Buddha nature, is this idea of compassion, and that when we are wakeful to our compassion and we become familiar with our nature, which is innately compassionate, that we have the ability to spread that and share that through this web of interconnectivity with others, that our actions naturally, I mean, the more we're able to be mindful and tune into our basic goodness, the more that radiates outward and affects others. And so when we practice Tonglen, for example, there isn't anything witchy about it. I mean, I can't say you're actually, if I'm imagining that healing light is coming and spreading to someone all the way who needs it in a country far away, I can't say that it is actually physically healing them in the way that I wish I could physically heal someone. That's a bit more magical. But you are sort of that energy in yourself, that basic goodness radiating outward, is naturally beneficial. And so cultivating that is not only helping you, cultivating compassion not only helps you recognize your own innate compassion, which is part of the nature of your own mind, but it also helps sort of through the web of interdependence share that open wakefulness, and like the creates further causes and conditions for that to arise in other places. So for example, something like Tonglen is a truly beautiful practice because it not only helps awaken our compassion, which helps us to awaken to our true nature, but it also plants a seed for that wakefulness to spread towards others. So with that being said, we're going to do a bit of Tonglen, and then we're going to have a brief Q&A before we dedicate. So another thing to remember with Tonglen, sometimes for those of us who are survivors of trauma or experience hardships with body, just to remember that these things are inherently, like, you won't, when you breathe on, when you take on through the inhale, uh, the suffering of others, you aren't actually taking on their suffering. We're just sort of imagining. And for some people, that can help to make the visualization sort of the strong part. You can just sort of not think about the contents of what you're taking on and sort of just imagine taking on smoke, and that smoke is just naturally healing others. But just know that you're not actually taking on any physical suffering of anyone, but you're rather opening yourself up, similar to what Jade said earlier about what meditation means to her, that through the process of Tonglen, you're essentially allowing yourself to be present with what's happening, even if it's uncomfortable, and thereby sharing that ability with others. Yeah. Okay, so find a comfortable seat wherever that is for you, seated or laying down or on the ground. Relax your shoulders and belly, keeping your trunk and posture upright to the best of your ability. Moving your gaze downward. You can relax your tongue on top of the roof of your mouth, opening your mouth ever so slightly. When we're working with the breath of Tonglen, it might take you multiple breaths to complete the visualization, and that's okay. You do not need to sync the breath with the visualization, because we want your breath to remain natural and uncontrived. In Tonglen, we conceive of our bodies as light bodies, similar to how we did in the body scan. Our bodies are made of many different parts, many different causes and conditions coming together to make each of those parts and to make each of those parts function as a singular body. So for the purposes of this practice and recognizing the true nature of interdependence, let's recognize that our bodies are essentially light bodies, bodies made of light. Allowing the breath to remain natural and uncontrived. As you breathe in, imagine breathing through your nose, your breath the color of a dark cloud or smoke. And as you breathe that in, imagine that you're taking away any sensations of suffering, of body or mind from yourself. We will begin with doing Tonglen for yourself. As you breathe in this dark cloud of smoke, allow it to fill your body. And as you breathe it in, as you breathe in your own suffering, through your attention, breath, and awareness, you are able to transform that suffering into joy, contentment, and freedom from suffering. And you breathe out that smoke in the form of white light on the out breath. So you breathe in your own suffering, taking it away from yourself, relieving yourself in the form of a dark cloud of smoke. Taking it on and thereby transforming it into white light. As you breathe out, breathe that white light back to yourself, healing yourself, eliminating all suffering of mind and body. Again, the visualization can take as many breaths as you need. It does not need to go with the natural flow of breath, whatever works best for you. As you breathe in, take on your own suffering in the form of a cloud, a dark cloud. As it enters your body, allow your attention, breath, and awareness to transform that cloud into light. And as you breathe out that light, share it with yourself and allow that light to liberate you from any suffering of mind and body. And if any point the meditation or visualization becomes too much, simply return to the natural breath, the flow of natural breath as your anchor. So now we're going to move on from focusing just on doing Tonglen for ourselves to doing Tonglen for someone we love as well. So we'll continue to include ourselves as well, always. But in addition, you can think of someone dear to you, a friend, a family member, a pet, someone you love. And imagine breathing in all of their suffering in the form of a dark cloud of smoke. And in breathing it in, you take away their suffering. And as it comes into your body, through your attention, breath, and awareness, that dark cloud transforms into light. And as you breathe out, imagine that you are relieving the suffering of that someone that you love, any kind of suffering of mind or body. If you'd like, you can begin to add now someone that's difficult in your life or something that's difficult in your life. It doesn't necessarily have to be a person. can be something that's going on. But essentially, you will agree to take on the suffering of this difficult situation or of a person that causes you pain. Breathing in their suffering in the form of a dark cloud of smoke. And as your attention, breath, and awareness take that smoke in, allow it to transform into light. And when you exhale, send light and freedom from suffering to that difficult person or difficult situation. Always to continue acknowledging throughout the practice that the first and foremost person at the root of your Tonglen is yourself. You cannot provide support, love, and compassion for others if you do not first give it to yourself. And if any point the visualization becomes too difficult, return to your breath. Even though we're doing things within this meditation, even though we're visualizing, we're still using this opportunity always to familiarize ourselves with the present moment of awareness as it is, no matter what arises. In the eye of the storm, remaining present. Slowly, you can begin moving from that difficult person or situation to expanding your Tonglen for others. Others, strangers you haven't met, people you've passed on the street but didn't get to introduce yourself to, people suffering abroad. You can try thinking of them or imagining them as individuals who are suffering, or you can just take on the collective of suffering, the pain of others far and wide, people that you've never met before. Expanding your field of Tonglen to help as many people as you can, yourself included. As you breathe in the suffering of others and yourself, imagining taking that suffering on through the breath in the form of a dark cloud, transforming it with your inhalation, exchanging it with your attention, breath, and awareness, and breathing out light that radiates out and alleviates the suffering of yourself and all others. Allow your mind to expand, and then let that visualization drop, returning to just the simple breath and this present moment of awareness. Allowing your mind to settle, resting evenly in the present moment of awareness. Okay, and slowly coming out of the meditation, back into the space with others. And take a moment to stretch or have a drink. And now is a great time to opportunity to share. You can or ask any questions. This is always my favorite part. It was still my favorite part today to hear from all of you about meditation, and I love just hearing from all of you. So this is an opportunity to have open discussion about your own practice or something that came up during today, or ask any pointed questions. So feel free to raise your hand. And yeah. Jade.
So I used a visualization. I find if I doing just through me is challenging, but I include the space.
Yeah.
So the other person is there with black smoke, and there's a space kind of just supporting both of us, and it's not like in me, but I'm
Yeah.
also I'm practicing. At first it was like, okay, I'm just letting the smoke pass me. But gradually like just kind of dissolve together
Yeah.
along with the space. So it's a bigger space.
I think that's a great idea. I think that's a great thing to use. I think if that felt supportive to you and felt like a helpful technique to do it, I think that's amazing. You know, especially with a practice like Tonglen, there people often feel a sense of like claustrophobia when doing it, or a feeling of like just doesn't feel good to think like, you know, you're like, I have enough on my plate. I don't need to take on someone else's stuff. And it can feel helpful to like expand yourself. That's often why I start with the image of the light body of the like, because right now, like, you know, in this bright blue jumpsuit with my bones and blood and stuff, I don't feel like I'm made of light, but essentially we are made of like different photons and things coming together. But yeah, so whatever helps you, I think that's a great technique, and I'm sure a lot of people would benefit from using it. So yeah, using the space to help sort of take it on, I think that's a great thing. Thank you for sharing that.
Thank you. And I have one more thing to add. And then I had this insight of I'm not alone and they're not alone.
Mm,
Because I have black smoke, they have black smoke, and it's the same black smoke. So I'm not, I guess that's natural compassion, maybe that's what it is.
yeah, I think so. I mean, I think that's what's so interesting about like any of these practices, but what I was mentioning right before we started the Tonglen, which is that, you're sort of like using compassion, uh, as a concept in order to access like your own innate compassion, and that's definitely happens. I think that definitely happens, and I'm so glad that it did for you.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much. Let's see, does anyone else? Questions or just sharing your experience with any of the practices or sort of further expounding on thoughts about what meditation is, or it could be very general, Dharma questions about something you're working on in another practice, happy to answer, or just sharing experience in general. This is a community space, and the point of Sangha is that we are spiritual friends sort of helping each other along the way. And yeah. Let's see. So, okay.
My
And
name is Anon. Hi.
hi.
I don't have my glasses and I'm sitting with a dog on my lap. I can't
Oh,
move. Um so I just wanted to say that a few weeks ago with was it John Levy? He talked a
Joel.
little Joel, sorry,
Yeah.
thank you. He talked about the Vahayana, was it the Vahayana diamond?
Yeah,
As
Vajrayana.
Vajrayana diamond as like the place inside that can transmute that dark cloud to the light. It's like a prism that things
Mhm.
cross. And that's that works for me, that visualization. I really enjoy that. And I just wonder if you could share what your thoughts are on that Vajrayana diamond and how it does that and why it does that.
Okay. Thank you. That's such a great question, and would love to share about that. So, we talked just now before the Tonglen practice about the Mahayana, the Hinayana, the first turning, the Mahayana, which is the second turning, and then the third turning of the wheel is Vajrayana. Vajra refers to the diamond-like quality of mind, which is the indestructible nature of mind. And in the Vajrayana is known as the path of swiftest means, the most expedited path. And the reason is in the Vajrayana, the notion is that essentially this idea that you are already awake and that you just need to recognize it. So, my teacher always described, the word for one of the many words for enlightened or liberated mind, this like diamond like Vajra mind, is Rigpa, right? And then our lack of, and then the word for not recognizing that is Marigpa, which is simply the negation of Rigpa. So within Marigpa, you're still possessed of Rigpa. So it's just not recognizing, you're unfamiliar with this diamond-like quality, this Vajra mind. And so, but it isn't something else, right? It's the same thing. And so the path of Vajrayana is a path based on this notion of alchemy and transmuting experience through wakefulness. So it means that it's called the fruition path. So basically everything that we do, every practice is 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 it. So you do yidam practice, for example, you meditate on this deity as if it's an external thing, and yet it is inherent to you. This quality of wakefulness that you're meditating on is to help you recognize that that is a quality that you actually already have, you need to wake up to, but that is your true nature that you're waking up to. So the alchemical process of that is actually like, so for example, that prism quality that Joel was talking about. So, you have suffering that can come in the form of many sorts of poisons, as they call it. You can have anger, sadness, sort of like toxic desire that feels sticky. And yet within those actual sort of toxic feeling emotions are the seeds of liberation and wakefulness, because it means there's nothing that cannot be the cause of your liberation. So for example, if you think of the story of the great yogi Milarepa, he literally killed people. He was a murderer. He like put spells on people to get back, to avenge his family. And this great sense of remorse is what his deepest suffering became the truest courage for his liberation. And so, Vajrayana is this power, of recognizing that the mind is, that everything is this mind, everything comes from mind, and mind's quality is diamond-like, indestructible. So there's nothing that your mind can't take on. You can take on the suffering of every single person, because your mind's true nature is expansive, transformative, present, naturally unbiased, and capable and innately compassionate. And so with this diamond-like indestructible quality, all of what can be seen as toxic can also be through the power of mind transformed into something liberatory, something revelatory. You can always learn, which is why I say there is no path apart from your own footsteps. There is nothing that cannot be workable. And that is what diamond-like means.
Wow, that was so intense. Thank you so much for that explanation. Loved it. Oh, it's just so palpable. It makes it even more real. It's a very powerful, even not knowing what it's doing, it just does it on its own. But to know what it's doing beyond that is like, oh my God, that's where that all comes from. Thank you so much. I really
Yes.
appreciate that
Thank you for that
explanation.
question. Thank you. Aparna.
Hi. Thank you so much for the beautiful teachings and practice, and that no path away from your own footsteps. It's just, that's gonna, everything is there, but that will, it's like highlighted in my mind. So thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And I just want to throw out there that Natural Dharma Fellowship and Wonderwell Mountain Refuge flourish through the generosity and open-hearted giving of people like all of us. Out of gratitude for the teachers and the teachings, as students offer dana, Sanskrit for generosity, to support them. If you'd like to offer dana in response to the teaching today, you're welcome to do so via NDF's website, naturaldharma.org/donate. And I'll put that in the chat, or to offer support as a volunteer on the hybrid teams supporting online and hybrid programming. Contact Laura at naturaldharma.org. She's away for a few days, but she'll be back soon. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Aparna. I'm going to quickly take Margaret's question, then we'll dedicate, and then we'll head out to enjoy our Sunday. Okay.
So I've only been doing Tonglen for a very short period of time, and I did appreciate Joel's suggestion of focusing on the diamond heart. That really helped me, and now I've been experimenting with breathing and the dark smoke. So what I did today I hadn't done before, but I feel like I need more than just an in and an out to transform the dark to white. So I take it in and then I hold it and then I breathe in and I breathe out just regular breath and then I bring in light, breathe in light, and then they sort of mix together and then I can breathe out white. And I think I need this reinforcement because I am so pained by those men who are trapped in that prison in El Salvador. And every time I do Tonglen, they come up and the black smoke is really dark and heavy and just filled with pain. And so I can't, maybe it'll come easier later, but I can't transform it to white because it's so black with one breath. So I found this to be helpful today. I just wonder if you have any comments on that.
Well, first of all, like both what you did and what Jade shared, and in light of the fact that what I talked about, these qualities of mind, which are naturally like creative and effervescent. And, I think that it's important for you to honor the tools that you're coming up with because they're coming from you and they're what you needed to do the visualization. I can obviously tell you, like, what the old masters told us, which is, which is not to go down on that, but like, the remedy is over time, apparently, we recognize more and more the sort of emptiness of ourselves, this sort of interdependent or like that we're so spacious, right? That this diamond-like quality is not just it's so pervasive. That's why Joel mentions it. It's so pervasive, it can hold anything. So that over time, perhaps as we connect with this essential quality of spaciousness, we can take on more because it doesn't feel like we don't feel so burdened because we feel more expansive, right? So that is also true. But I also think it is just as valid to say that, whatever you, Margaret, created in the moment to give yourself a way to do the practice better for you that was genuine, I think that's amazing because when you wake, like that's part of your true nature, I think that's great. So I wouldn't change a thing. I think the more that we can do in these meditation spaces to be just present with what's coming up and what you are, like just becoming more awake to you is also part of the path. So I wouldn't try and slough anything off. I think that's a great technique.
Thank you. Thank you, Zoe.
Yeah, thank you all so much. We're going to quickly dedicate and head out. May the pure, brilliant sun of bodhicitta dawn in each and every heart and mind, dispelling the darkness of suffering and confusion unstoppably until all are fully illumined and awakened. So wonderful to be with you all. I hope you enjoy the rest of your Sunday, and I look forward to seeing you. I'll be back in July 6th and more times throughout the summer. So thank you so much.